Okay, I'd like to open up the Human Resource PR Committee meeting. Roll call.
Alderman Fisher. Alderman Mayfield.
Present.
Alderman Evans.
Here.
Alderman Allen.
Here.
Alderman Markham. Alderman Runnels.
Here.
Alderman January.
Great, we have two items. First item is Executive Session 5 ILC S 122C2 Collective Bargaining, 2C11 and litigation. And we also have a presentation of the Owens Group liability insurance contract renewal. So first thing we're going to do is go into executive session. So can I have a motion to go into executive session?
So move. Second.
Okay, moved in second. Roll call.
Alderman Fisher. Alderman Mayfield.
Aye.
Alderman Evans.
Aye.
Alderman Allen.
Aye.
Alderman Markham. Alderman Runnels.
Aye.
Alderman January.
Okay, so we're gonna be in executive session. I'm sorry, I'd like to open up the Human Resources PR Committee meeting.
So move.
Roll call.
Alderman Fisher. Alderman Mayfield.
Aye.
Alderman Evans.
Aye.
Alderman Allen.
Aye.
Alderman Markham. Alderman Runnels.
Aye.
Alderman January.
Okay, now I'd like to entertain a motion to close the Human Resource, excuse me, I'm not gonna close it. We're gonna go to the second item. Presentation of the Owens Group liability insurance contract renewal. Owens Group can come forward? Good evening.
Good evening. Good evening. My name is Bill.
The microphone is hitting the podium if you.
Oh, okay. There we go. My name is Bill Owens, and I'm with the Owens Group. I have here Bruce Mitchell of our office. He's the account manager. And we're here tonight to present your 2017 to 2018 renewal. That's effective December 1st. And we have three items. It's good news, and good news. I'm not sure which one you would like to hear first. However, we will get right into it. In brief, currently, you have $10 million in liability limits. Now, there are various retentions or deductibles, if you will, that you have, ranging from approximately $25,000 to, in one line of coverage, it's $500,000 for the law enforcement liability, and $650,000 for your excess workers' compensation. Those will stay the same. The good news is that, again, with your current $10 million in liability limits, effective 12/1, you will have $20 million in liability limits. As you know, this has been something over the past 3 years that we've been saying the $10 million that you have now, we highly recommend that you kick that up to at least $20 million or beyond to properly protect your assets. The issue has been cost. So this year, with the effective marketing that Bruce and his team did, we were able to negotiate $20 million in limits for net savings of $20,000 approximately. So you're going into the new year, effective 12/1, the net effect is $20,000 lower in total cost, but you have $10 million more in limits, or a total of $20 million now as opposed to $10 million to protect your interest. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to Bruce, and he'll tell you more about that and how that came into be.
That was a nice introduction. Good evening.
Good evening.
All right, I want to start off with, in your packet, you do all have packets, correct?
Correct.
All right, let's start with the coverage, the program structure, which is this page right here. It's the diagram of the program that the city has in place right now. And those are just the towers of coverage. I wanted to just go over that briefly, and all the coverages that are in the program. We currently have a $1 million limit with ACE USA, $10,000 deductible. You have a traveler's crime cyber policy with a $1 million limit and $25,000 deductible. You have a Chubb property policy with $57 million approximately for buildings. Total TIV is $61 million with a $25K deductible. The blue area is your package coverages with Safety National is the recommended carrier that we're proposing tonight. You have a $4 million aggregate limit for general liability with a $2 million each occurrence limit and a retention of $100,000 for liability. Employment practice liability, $2 million limit with $100K SIR. Your law enforcement liability coverage is $2 million limit with a $500,000 SIR retention. Your public officials liability has a $2 million limit with $100,000 SIR retention. Your employee benefits has a $4 million aggregate, $2 million each occurrence limit or each employee limit with a retro date of 12/1/2013 and an SIR retention of $100,000. Your auto liability is a $2 million limit, and you also have physical damage coverages with $25,000 deductibles for each. Your auto physical damage, meaning if your entire fleet is destroyed in a hurricane or something, or not a hurricane obviously in Illinois, but a tornado, that would be covered with a $25K retention. And as Mr. Owen stated, on your excess workers' comp, you have a $1 million limit with a $650K retention. Now, he did state, let's go to the executive summary, or actually, let's go to the claim snapshot, because that pretty much drives the cost of the program. And that is this diagram right here. We're looking at the 7-year liability limit, or total incurred limit, or total incurred claims for the city. As you can see, in 2010, you had approximately $2 million in claims. And from 2010 on to 2016, you can see that the claims activity is reduced. Alderman, oh, you got it, okay. So the way that the industry works now, especially with regard to law enforcement liability, is they look at 7 years of losses. Once the 7th year falls off, your experience is through the roof. That, like I said, that one last year, 2010, is the last year that's kind of holding the program back, and we'd be able to get your retention down from $500,000. That's what we've been trying to do for the last 3 years. So we've been able to save the city money and negotiate with the carriers with the intentions of getting that retention down, so that going forward you won't have to have that $500,000 retention. That will be next year. As far as workers' comp, they're usually looking at a 6-year window. It's not as volatile as the law enforcement liability marketplace, and the city has performed very well. That's why you have a 9% reduction in the rate for your excess workers' comp coverage. Now let's look at the executive summary, which talks about the actual marketing of the program. All right, we approached all of the markets that write public entity business in the state of Illinois, all A-rated companies. You were originally with Munich Re, and they came to the table with terms, but Safety National, they were very, very aggressive. I think when we sat in front of you 3 years ago, we said, well, right now, there isn't a lot of activity in the marketplace willing to write business or write the city's business. Now, every carrier is lining up to write the city's business, and that's due to the work that the department heads have made as far as safety, getting claims down, and us working together as a team. So this is the end result after 3 years of that effort. Munich Re was the incumbent carrier, and their quote came back actually 10% higher than what they were last year. And that's not due to anything that's going on with the city. As you know, the insurance marketplace is very volatile right now. You had the hurricanes down in the Gulf region, you got the forest fires out west, and insurance companies are trying to get rate, and Munich Re is one of them. So the quote that they offered was actually $47,883 more than what you paid last year. And obviously, that wasn't going to cut it. Safety National, who wrote your excess workers' comp last year, is very aggressive in the marketplace. They've decided that they wanted to write all lines of coverage and branch out away from the excess comp. And they were very aggressive. They were offering a 13% reduction for the city, or a savings of $59,000 over what you paid last year to Munich Re. They're also willing to offer higher limits, not only the $20 million that Mr. Owens had discussed earlier, but failure to supply coverage, which is important for the city's water plant business. They offered $4 million, $2 million over what Munich Re offered last year. Let's look at the next page. We talk about specific coverages that are fairly important to the program. Law enforcement liability, I think everybody knows that law enforcement liability is a hot button issue in the nation. Every carrier is looking at the police departments to make certain that there's continuity, there's established leadership, and that the city is very serious about that line of coverage. Unfortunately for the city, that 2010 year is pretty bad. The law enforcement liability claims represents like 78% of all the losses for the city between 2011 and 2014, or 839,000 of 1.75 million. As far as the property is concerned, you've had a couple of property claims. Your water plant had a big claim last year, and Chubb has actually been a pretty good partner with the city. Your loss ratio with Chubb right now is 125%, meaning they're spending 125% of the premium dollar they've collected from the city on claims. A loss ratio that's attractive to a carrier is 60%. So when you're talking 125%, they're not too happy about that. Having said that, they are a partner with the city and only increased the premium by 5%. When you're talking 125%, anybody that knows business knows that if they're spending 125% of that money on claims and not collecting premium for profit, that's a good partner for the city. And Chubb's paper is outstanding in the marketplace. You're not going to find a property carrier that has a better form than Chubb. As Mr. Owens stated, for the last 3 years, we've tried to convince the city to increase the limits to $20 million. For a municipality of your size, $20 million is pretty much the bare minimum that we would recommend. Due to our negotiations with Safety National and the savings over last year's program, we're able to offer that $20 million to the city at a reduced rate of 3% over last year, or a savings of $19,443. Other coverages, pollution, crime, cyber, and excess workers' comp, all of those are down. Your premium for crime and cyber is down 1%. Your excess workers' comp, as I stated earlier, is down 9%, and your pollution liability is down 2%. The next page just basically shows the marketing effort for the Owens Group, what the carriers quoted for all lines of coverage, and their responses, why they offered terms, why they did not offer terms. And again, like I said, when we started this process, we had like 3 quotes the first year. Now we have 5 to 6 quotes from different carriers, all vying to write the city's coverage. And that's basically it. The rest of the packet includes the premium comparison, which highlights what we discussed tonight. The overall cost for 2016-17 was $751,720. The program that we're recommending is $732,277, again with a savings of $19,443, or 3% over last year. And if you have any questions.
Any questions?
Make just one last statement. There is another feature that with Safety National, they are able to offer a plethora of videos, teaching videos, where the employees will be able to watch the video for a certain segment. It asks It will stop, it will ask them questions. If they get the questions correct, it continues. The employee doesn't answer the questions correct, it goes back and asks them to review what they watched. And then at the end, when they have successfully completed the video, there will be an email to that individual letting them know that you've successfully completed it, and another email will be sent to Elizabeth Black's office, and she will have record, or that whatever designation person that it should go to will have record of that video completed. How many videos are available? There are quite a few in multiple categories. And this is something that pretty much all of the other carriers do not have this type of technology right now. And this is now part of, including the police department, this is part of the overall package. Many towns go out and they pay a lot more for these services. This is part of when you do business with Safety National. It's built into the overall program because they want you to use it to continue to help drive your losses down. So it's a partnership in that respect. And the last thing that I'd like to mention is that I can't say enough, and Bruce mentioned it, can't say enough about the work that has been done by the various departments, the administration and the various departments, from the mayor's office to the chief of staff, to, Deb Black, and all of the department heads and the employees working with our loss control team every month. You see those small amounts of losses that have been occurring, keeping those losses down, and you see this vast area where it cuts off, goes all the way back to 2010. That's going to fall off the radar screen of the insurance companies next year. So that's work that was done and an investment of time that was made. And I hope that there's an opportunity for you all as a board to just give a congratulatory, to address them and let them know what a great job they've done. Thank you so much.
Alderman,
Yes, sir.
oh, I'm sorry,
Okay,
Alderman
Mr.
Allen.
Chairman. Bill, to you, I just want to know, I know you had Valerie come in and Ms. Waller come in, and they did a lot of work. We try to be proactive, not be reactive. Now, we reacted the last time. Are we looking at bringing them back in and look and see what, because we want to get better. We don't want to stay where we are and just assume we're going to get better. They came in and did a great job. So I'm asking you, are you looking at bringing, still maybe some more improvement here we can be working on?
Yes, sir.
But we don't want to assume that it's going to get better. We want to know that we was going the right direction. Let's keep going the right direction. So that's why I'm asking you.
Yes, sir.
When they came in, they did a lot of work.
Yes, Valerie was here last week, and she briefly mentioned some of what you're talking about now. She's going to come back with a complete presentation and go over the specifics of risk management with you, and some of the objectives that she believes the city needs to address over the coming year and the next 3 years.
That's why I said, see, I didn't know she had been here. That's why I'm kind of.
Yes, that's a whole separate presentation. She'll get into great detail with that presentation.
All right, I just want to make sure.
Yes, sir.
Thank you.
Okay, other questions? Alderman Markham?
Thank you. My question is the insurance reserve restricted account that was set in place. I've continued to ask the treasurer about, are there funds to be added to it? And he stated that information, he would have to get it from your company.
Do you want to comment on that?
I did get the information from Mr. Mitchell. It came in an email, and it referred back to the initial proposal that they presented to the city council, and where it requested that for each year we fund $250,000 into this insurance reserve account.
Right.
As you remember, Bill Brim was kind of against putting that $250,000 in each year, and he presented, he was in the process of presenting a proposal as to how much we should put in there each year. Now, the 250 wasn't budgeted to go into the reserve account this year. So that's something that, as we go forward, if you want to go in, I think you have to do an analysis and, really see if you need to put the entire 250 in there to cover future claims based on what's being presented right now.
Well, when we accepted the terms with this company, I thought that was a given. I didn't know it had to be, I thought it would be placed in the budget every year. My question is yet to Owens Group, why hasn't there been a partnership in doing this, in making certain that this is,
Well, that doesn't fall on them.
it doesn't fall
No,
on?
that falls on us for not placing that in the budget each year.
But
It's a
weren't
line
there-
item that, we should have discussed each year to add the 250 in the reserve. But, if you go back and remember the conversation that Bill was going through,
Right,
and I was in the process of trying to go back and look at the tapes, I believe it was September of August of 2016, when Bill was discussing that, and that was just before he passed. So he had, I'm trying to go back and find those council minutes and resurrect what he was recommending as an amount to go into the fund each year.
okay. But I believe he was also talking or discussing it with them also, if I'm not mistaken. Weren't they in concert about that?
There was a discussion, but if you remember, he thought that was a little excessive to
Well, I
giving the.
understand that,
the
but I'm
cash
saying to come
position,
down to an exact, what I'm basically saying is, I feel that from the beginning when they were embraced, that something should have been, we should have more than $216,000 in that account from the time that we accepted them up until now. That's even if we didn't put in the $250,000, because that was a part of the agreement that I thought. I remember, dialoguing about that when we first were presented with this. So I'm saying will something be done about this, or on both parts, or what? Because I really don't know who to discuss it with, because when I discuss it with the city, they've told me, well, we need information from Owens Group. Then when I talk to someone from Owens Group, they say, well, the city has to come. So I'm like, well, that was a part of the agreement that, everybody discussed.
That was part of their recommendation.
Right, their
So the-
recommendation. So when we accepted it, weren't we supposed to be proactive in doing that?
We should have placed it in the budget, but it was not. It's something we have to look at, going forward for 18, 19, if you want to place that amount in the budget.
Well, that's something that helps us, is that right? I don't think you would have told us to do that if it wouldn't have been an asset.
When you have, there's two types of programs.
Mhm.
One is what's referred to as a first dollar program, where you would pay $1,000, $5,000, even $10,000 deductible for any line of coverage. And that's referred to as a first dollar program. And the insurance company prices the program and they pay everything else. The cost of that program would probably be double what you're paying now, if available. And so most entities your size, and when I say most, I can pretty much say just about all, are on the type of program that you are on. If they aren't on that type of program, they're expending the dollars that they don't need to spend. So when you do have this kind of program where you have to, when you're paying the first retentions, self-insured retentions of $25,000 to $650,000, depending on the line of coverage, you have to allocate monies in a separate fund so that if you have a max loss, one loss, as an example of, say, $650,000 on your workers' compensation, you would have the ability to pull from your fund this loss fund that you're banking dollars in and pay that without having an impact on your then that year budget. And that's the purpose of setting this up. We appreciate, and you're to be in the city, your attention to this issue is important, because while in our best efforts and everyone's best efforts to address a very good claims history, which is what you are enjoying for several years now, as you know, things happen. And if something were to happen, we would not want you to have to, pull the fire alarm on your budget.
Right.
So, and that's when you have, it's prudent to set this separate account up and begin to work towards, and even if it's an amount for the next 5 years of, say, $100,000 to $150,000 and not the $250,000 amount, because we recognize that funds are tight. There should be monies that are cash, monies that are put in this account from that standpoint. One other way of addressing it, and I'll mention this, if you aren't able to put the cash in there, perhaps there is an opportunity to set up a line of credit, so that if something were to happen, that can be tapped, and the monies from a banking institution would deposit that money, as opposed to having the cash sitting in that account. That's just another way of looking at it.
And then to put into context what the 250 came from, that was the amount that was saved when we initially came on
Right.
the program, savings that we negotiated with DEP, and that was the reason why that amount was. The thought process was every year the city would determine
Right.
what the correct amount is to place in that account, not have 250 be
Correct.
the line.
Yeah. But basically putting something there.
Exactly.
Didn't have to be 250,000,
Right.
just, you know.
Our thought process was that you had already budgeted for your program at that level that you were paying before we got involved.
Right.
We saved $250 coming in.
And that savings would be placed in that account.
Keep the same amount that you're
Right.
paying, but take that money, that excess, and put it aside.
Correct. Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Any more questions?
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
All righty.
Okay, I'd like to entertain a motion to adjourn the Human Resources and PR Committee meeting.
So move. Second.
Moved in second. Roll call.
Alderman Fisher. Alderman Mayfield.
Aye.
Alderman Evans.
Aye.
Alderman Allen.
Aye.
Alderman Markham.
Aye.
Alderman Runnels.
Aye.
Alderman January.
Also, it is 7 o'clock. I know that we should be going into council, but I think there's things in
Economic.
economic development that are on council that
Right.
needs to be talked about. So just to those in the audience, we are going to continue on in our committees until we get done, and then we will go into city council at that time.
Thanks, man. Laura, you ready? Okay. I would like to open up the Economic Development Planning and Zoning Committee meeting. Roll call.
Alderman Fisher. Alderman Mayfield.
Present.
Alderman Evans.
Here.
Alderman Allen.
Here.
Alderman Markham.
Here.
Alderman Runnels.
Here.
Alderman January.
We got 10 items on the agenda. Review, discussion, special use permit at 1114 14th Street, Skokie Highway, TIF expansion, 1626 Greenfield purchase sale agreement, CMAP LTA grant, Lakefront Assess Studies, Broomfield grant, letter of support and resolution, CDGB resolution, petition of variance is 1701 Greenfield Avenue, an amendment to special use permit for planning unit development at 14th and Lewis Avenue, the Family Dollar, and petition for zoning map amendment on 14th and Lewis, that's at the Family Dollar. Victor, we'll start with that special.
Thank you very much and good evening.
Good
I'm sorry. The first item on the agenda is special use permit for 1114 14th Street. This is a property that's been vacant for quite some time, and the petitioner, the request before you is to allow the petitioner, Ms. Deborah Cotrier, to operate a daycare facility at this property. When this matter was presented to the Planning and Zoning Commission, the petitioner and buyer was days away from closing on the property. She's been working with several regulatory agencies to obtain and secure the proper approvals for her to run and operate a daycare out of this facility. She proposes a number of interior and exterior improvements to the property. She is anxious to get going on those improvements, and the Planning and Zoning Commission unanimously recommended approval of the requested special use. This evening, we have Ms. Cotrier here in the audience, and she is available to answer any questions that the committee may have regarding the requested special use.
Any questions, City Council?
I'm sorry.
Go ahead, Mayor.
I know that this has gone through the zoning,
Yes.
and I know that as you move forward on this, I see one of the first thing that pops out at me is you're gonna be closing off 14th Street entrance and opening it on the Glen Drive entrance? You're gonna move in that direction? Which I think is a very smart move, but I seen it on the plan, so, very good.
Okay. Alderman Mayfield?
You know, I just would like to say congratulations to Ms. Cotrier for opening up a business in North Chicago. We are always happy to see businesses open up in North Chicago. Ms. Cotrier is a fine woman. I know that she's going to run an excellent daycare. So if my grandchildren are ever here and I need a babysitter, I will be coming to you first. And I can recommend her highly. She's fantastic.
Any more?
Did Ms.
Ms.
Cotrier, did she
Cotier, you
have-
want to come up and say anything? Let the City Council know who you, so, okay, I know, we heard.
Well, me being a lifetime resident here of North Chicago and my parents being residents, my father an alderman for 48 years, I just want to bring our roots back to North Chicago here, bring some businesses or bring some fundings or something here back to the city. I will be naming the daycare, J&R Daycare, after my parents, Jerome and Rebecca Hodge. And I look forward to opening this daycare within third quarter of next year.
Okay,
Okay?
any more, good, looking forward to working, sound good.
And I hope that, again, I'm sorry.
Go ahead, Mayor.
Yes, just to kind of echo on Alderman Mayfield, I know that, your family has been here for many years. I know had the privilege of actually Jerome Hodge as an alderman, being on council with him. And I've seen the many fine works that he did as an alderman here in the city of North Chicago. So I'm sure that you will, continue his legacy. And look forward to continue to work with you, so.
Congratulations.
I see you got one already.
I have four.
Four, okay. All right, thanks, all right, we'll go to number two.
Number two is Skokie Highway TIF expansion. So what you have in your packet is a proposal for Keane McKenna and Associates to work on and assist the city in expanding the Skokie Highway TIF. We're requesting that we look at this expansion of the Skokie Highway TIF to incorporate properties that are situated on the on the west side of Skokie Highway. We've recently been receiving quite a bit of inquiries regarding development opportunities, some on vacant land, some redevelopment potential, and also talking to several businesses along the west side of Skokie Highway that have expressed an interest and or desire in expanding their existing building footprint. So we think it's a good opportunity to pull the trigger on this expansion and use the benefits of of the TIF to use that increment to look at other improvements within this corridor, streetscape improvements, roadway improvements, et cetera. This evening, we have Phil McKenna in the audience that is available to answer any of the questions that committee may have regarding this endeavor.
Okay,
Let him speak.
do we have any, go ahead, let him finish first.
Actually, I don't have anything to add tonight. I'm soft-spoken tonight. And I know your time is valuable. I think Victor summarized it well. We're obviously familiar with the area in terms of the TIF done on the other side of the street last year, so we would cherish the opportunity.
Okay. This TIF is, do we have money in the TIF for, I'm looking at the hours,
It's quite a bit of money. This money would be spent over the course of 6 months. May certainly go into the next budget year, depending on the progress of this TIF expansion. There is some money in the department's budget, but there is a possibility that we may go over.
so right now, you gotta have an idea, you got hours, but you gotta have some kind of idea in your head what it's gonna cost, a range from, so what is that range? You got the hours, I don't see it on here, maybe I'm missing it.
Yeah, Alderman, based both on last experience on Skokie Highway and one variable that I'm going to mention, the range would be somewhere between 30 and 43,000. There's a difference on this particular potential TIF district in that under state law, if you have more than 75 residential units, and that's not decided by the council, but if the residential units are included,
Okay.
then an additional housing impact study must be done. An additional meeting must be done. Additional notices must be published. That's why I have to share tonight that kind of a range
35, you say the what?
to about 43. That's the range based upon our
I
previous
just want some
estimate.
kind of range,
Right.
I don't want,
Right, and the differential there is your ultimate decision as to whether or not you include the residential properties.
so how much we got in our, no, this has got to do, can Mary tell me what's in that TIF now?
It's not
You do that
broken.
money-
It's broken down in our budget by professional services.
So how much is in there? I want you to answer. Mary, do you know what that number is? I don't want to start agreeing, then you come right out, everything I come out of the general fund there. What's that? It's money. Okay. I just want to,
Yeah, this year, in the FY18 budget, we budgeted $350,000 in the professional services line for this department.
yeah, but that's come, okay. Yeah, that's on he's on the west side, that deal.
Is that it?
No, that would be on you say on the west side, that'll
The
be
existing TIF incorporates
the-
properties on the east side of Skokie Highway.
The east
With this
side?
expansion, we're looking to extend that to properties west and include properties west of Skokie Highway.
That's the old, was that currency change and all that in the area?
Yes, that's in that area. That's in the east. That's existing.
That's existing.
That's
okay.
existing.
Speedway size, they're gonna be bringing a TIF on that side of the road.
Yeah, but they told the hotel and all that stuff in there.
Yes.
Okay. So we can spend 350, okay. Okay.
Okay.
Got any more questions?
The TIF on that side of the road for what?
No, okay, he talking about from Buckley Road there, 137, all the way down.
All the way down to the city limits on the south
Yeah.
end.
Oh, okay.
Okay, where that paint shop is right there.
Gotcha.
From Buckley all the way down to where HD Water and some of those.
Yeah, it's a body shop
Oh,
right
it's
there
a
on the
body
last
shop.
one.
Okay.
Okay,
Okay.
that's an almond. Okey-dokey.
Moving on, the third item, 1626 Greenfield. I wanted to take this opportunity just to keep the committee apprised of where we're at with this property. What you have in front of you and as part of your packet is a draft of the purchase and sale agreements. This is what I would consider draft number 2 of this agreement. We have had a conversation with the interested party. Truth be told, we have not shared this agreement with the party as we just received this agreement late last week, but we will be forwarding it on for their review, comments, and hopefully expect to have this brought back to the City Council for formal review and approval on the 20th.
Okay. Go to the next, okay. Any questions? Okay, we'll go to CMAP.
CMAP, this is more of an FYI. Just wanted to let the committee know that we collectively with other communities have been successful in obtaining assistance from the Chicago metropolitan area for planning. The assistance that we're going to be receiving is looking at a regional multi-use, multi-trail plan. And we were just notified that we were a successful recipient. And so over the next couple of weeks, we will be working together to put together that plan for the multi-use trail.
Any questions? All right, keep going now.
Good job.
Brownfield grants. So what you have in your packet is a resolution and a letter of support. Basically, what we're looking to do and obtain is get City Council approval to have Lake County lead the charge in applying for a grant up to $600,000 for environmental cleanup. We're asking the City Council to approve a resolution that would authorize us to be part of the Lake County Brownfield Coalition that includes the City of North Chicago, Waukegan, Zion, Fox Lake, and the Village of Mundelein.
Any question?
Funds will be equally distributed or according to.
We'd have to work through that. We're very preliminary just yet. But it's up to $600,000 is my understanding.
If it's granted $600,000, then Waukegan would get a certain percentage of that, North Chicago.
There would be an assessment, and we would evaluate every property that requires cleanup. Wait. Item number 7, 1701 Greenfield Avenue. This is a request by Mr. Marcus Williams. The property owner would like to do an addition to his garage, in essence expand the size of his garage, but unfortunately in order for him to expand his garage, that new improvement will be encroaching onto the required setbacks. The Planning and Zoning Commission heard this matter and unanimously approved the requested relief. The Plan Commission found that the expansion of the addition of the garage will have no impact onto adjacent properties given its location. Mr. Williams would like to move as soon as possible with this improvement, and as he'd like to get it completed before there's any snow.
Now this question. Go ahead, you got a question?
No, I was just gonna say, this is in my ward. Mr. Williams has been trying to get this done, or actually, he really started on it probably in the last couple of, maybe within the last month, but, he keeps his property immaculate, and, I believe the zoning committee approved this unanimously, everybody.
That is correct.
on
There
that.
were,
So, I'm just, putting out my plea for everyone to, to go ahead and vote yes on this.
So, just one question. He owned the land and everything, right?
he is the owner,
And
correct.
Nothing wrong, he just wanted to do a setback.
He wants to increase the size of his garage, and so as he puts as he's doing that, he has a setback issue, hence why he has to apply for the variance.
Okay, he already applied for all this.
I did, excuse me. I did have an opportunity to talk to Mr. Williams also. He kind of he brought me over. Yeah, for what he's looking for, I can say that, it's, I don't see anything wrong with it. It does, but he does have to go through the proper procedures to do it. So, it's all on his property. He sits right on the side of an alley. There's no other property around him that's going to be encroached by this, so yes,
Okay,
I would hope council would be in favor of it.
okay.
I meant to say unanimously.
I ain't gonna say all that.
Items,
Did
All
you skip one, the CDB?
6, he did skip.
oh, I'm so sorry. So number 6, CDBG resolution. This is a resolution that we're looking for city council approval on. This is an application that we have put together seeking county money for what I would call and consider round 2 of blight busting or demolition. I know that this is a matter that we discussed a couple of months ago, and I said that we wanted to continue with the momentum, but we wanted to do things a little bit differently and use other people's money, other agencies' money as much as possible. And so what you have before you is just that opportunity to use another agency's money. And so what we have is an application requesting approximately $300,000 for demolition.
I got a question. Go ahead, Alden. Is that in addition with ours, or are we just using another agency's money?
We have some money. There is some money in my current budget for demolition, but truth be told, it's not that much money. And so we're really counting on the assistance from Lake County and any other means that we can get, any other monies that we can get for demolition.
So is that for now? So we're not gonna be placing any money from the city for demolition?
I haven't budgeted any big dollar amounts for demolition.
Alderman Markham.
Question about that. Because you had stated at one while, and I may be wrong, so, that you had went over budget in that area.
Right.
You had stated that a while back when this project was going on, and it had gone over budget. But you say you have some funds.
I'm sorry, go ahead.
You say you have some funds left in there?
In the budget, there's $50,000 as a line item that we have for demolition. And we use that $50,000 throughout the budget year to cover expenses that are related with certain vacant properties, i.e. Board ups, and from time to time, properties that we have to demo on an emergency basis. But they're not, that money that's in the budget isn't intended to go out there and actively pursue the demolition of properties.
So that's technically not for the actual demolition, that's for the other.
That's how that line item is put.
That's
but
how it's placed there.
That's how it's placed, but really it's for the purposes of board ups and it's more of a what I'd consider reactive money than proactive money.
But the actual demolition projects did go over budgets, that's what.
Yes, because we had to borrow, we recently borrowed $400,000 from the water account that we are about to start repaying that money back. We borrowed $400,000 from that account that I think here soon we're going to make the first payment on that money. Because again, we didn't have that money, and that money wasn't budgeted for what I consider proactive demolition.
I think Mary got some.
So board ups come through your budget, is that correct?
Board ups are coming through my budget, correct?
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay. Number 8.
So number 8 and number 9 are basically tied together, and what we have is what I would consider an opportunity to clean up a number of documents that were before the city as it relates to Family Dollar. There have been some changes to the project, specifically as it relates to the requirements for the requirements or the need to have the developer put install detention for this property. That requirement has triggered a number of changes to the developments, and we are taking this opportunity to make sure that what we're calling the regulatory documents are in line with the realities of the development and what has transpired over the last couple of months.
Okay. Attorney said that was all good, right?
Well, yeah, we had recommended we take this approach because what was originally approved in terms of the land configuration on how the development was going to be situated and what was going to be conveyed to the city isn't exactly how it developed. And the attorney is here for the developer who could answer some questions that you may have about that. But we thought it was necessary to make sure that the regulatory documents, the ordinances that control the property, reflect what actually was developed.
Okay, 'cause I know we had discussed that and you was
Yeah.
holding it back before, so now you saying you want to do some changes.
We have to, because what was approved in the ordinances isn't exactly what went on the property.
Okay. So
What we're basically doing is taking this opportunity to make sure that the paper trail is very clear on what transpired, and that the new regulatory documents are in line with what is actually constructed and what is being built. Otherwise, you will have a conflict between what's being built and what was approved, and we don't want that.
just a hypothetical question, is this got to go back through zoning now? 'Cause
We've already taken it back to zoning. If anything, we're getting to we're about. This has been back to zoning. The Planning and Zoning Commission unanimously approved this, and we're getting to the point where we're just about ready to wrap all this up.
It had to go through zoning because
Okay.
planning and zoning looked at it, approved something some time ago. Again, what ultimately was developed differed from what was approved. We told the developer that, well, okay, you got to go back through the process again, which included getting a positive recommendation from the Planning and Zoning Commission and ultimately ordinances that would reflect, as Victor just explained, what actually happened on the property.
So that's why everything stopped on the project in a week, because I ain't never heard anything about that.
No, the stop of work had nothing to do with the regulatory documents. The stop work order had to do with a number of building permit and engineering issues that we were having with the construction of the development.
And you didn't notify us about that?
I did notify the mayor, made him aware. Should be told, I did not notify the rest of the committee members, but I know that mayor was aware of the stop work order and that we were working with the development team on getting those issues resolved.
But that was, let me just state though, that was in regards to just strictly a building permit or the construction of a building. If someone is building or remodeling a house and they're not following procedures, they
Right.
do a stop work on that just as well. Same way here, same way if it was at Regency at Coles Park. If they don't follow the proper procedures in regards to how they supposed to build that site or any place in the city, that is the responsibility of that department to come out and do a stop work on it until they correct that issue. That's exactly what happened. I mean, I don't necessarily go out to, council to let you know that our department is doing what they're supposed to do. And that's what they're doing. They were, they weren't following proper procedures in regards to that building. He came to let me know that they're gonna do a stop until they corrected it. They corrected that issue and they continue to build. This is a separate issue from what that was though.
Yeah, okay.
This is in regards to how their ordinance and zoning of that property site has to be corrected.
So it's got a lot of things here that I feel like I should have been informed of some things going, because people ask me, I don't know. So how they look for me when they ask me something and I don't know what's going on.
I apologize
This is my
about that.
ward. I don't know.
So are you saying that?
No, I'm just saying, it been stopped for a week or so more, and then the other things going on. I just like to been informed about what was going on, so people ask me certain things in my ward, and then I could tell them something, just say I don't know. Because I didn't know it had even stopped on until somebody come ask me about it.
Well, I mean, that, and like I said, that does happen time to time when, again, anybody that does building within the city of North Chicago does construction, whether it's a new build or
Yeah.
reconstruction or if they're not doing it in the proper way. they
You
just-
know, I ain't no problem with that
Okay.
part.
Okay,
I ain't had no problem with that. That's okay. You're supposed to stop when they're doing that.
right.
But, that's a big project. That's not just a sidewalk or a garage. I just was saying, okay. I just wanna make sure, go ahead, Alderman.
Well, and I can tell you, and just to be on the, I mean, just to let you know, we've done stop work on Regency at Coles Park
Okay.
because they weren't adhering to, the codes that we follow. I mean, you may not hear it, once they get it corrected, they continue to build. And, but that's our department's doing their job to make sure
yeah.
that it's
Oh, yeah.
being built in the proper way.
Right. That's okay.
Okay.
Go ahead, Alderman Evans.
Go ahead.
Okay.
I'll say.
You gonna say, okay. Thank you. We'll move forward on this, get it going.
And those are all the items that I have for this evening.
Thank you. I don't have anything on opinion matters, so, well, I got one. How we look, go ahead, Mayor.
No.
How we looking on,
I wanted to finish up on the Family Dollar, though. I did have a question.
okay, go ahead.
They're conveying land back over to us again, right?
That's that second lot, that southern lot.
Okay, and one of my concerns was the retention pond that sits there that's overgrown. Are they standing, just giving that to us, or are they going to get that back to a point where that is functioning in a proper way?
They've agreed, and I'll let Rich speak on that matter, but they've agreed to clear that and have it function before they convey it over to us. As a matter of fact, we discussed that this evening.
Good evening. Thank you. My name is Richard Dubin. I'm the attorney for the developer Atwater Group. I appreciate your time this evening. We did agree to commit to clearing the detention pond as soon as we can, weather permitting, certainly as part of or prior to the conveyance of the lot back to the city.
Okay. So
Okay.
that overgrowth will be removed, that pond would actually function as it was originally set to do?
That is my understanding, yes.
Thank you.
Okay. Thank you. Any more questions? Okay, Victor, you want?
Thank you.
That's everything there, I think. I don't have anything on the, well, I did say, Victor, I'm sorry. How we looking at on Sheridan Road down there? What we, I gotta ask. Sheridan Crossing.
It's a good question. We are, well, we have this evening on the city council agenda, we have the approval of the enterprise zone
Yeah,
ordinance, and we also have a meeting scheduled with the school district tomorrow.
good. Okay. Good, okay. Thank you.
You're welcome.
I'd like to entertain a motion that we adjourn the Economic Development Planning and Zoning Committee meeting. Moved by Alderman Reynolds, second by Alderman Evans. All in favor saying aye? Aye. Opposed? Ayes have it.
I'd like to open up the Public Works Committee meeting. Roll call.
Alderman Fisher. Alderman Mayfield.
Present?
Alderman Evans.
Here.
Alderman Allen.
Here.
Alderman Markham. Alderman Reynolds.
Here.
Alderman January.
We have one item on the agenda. The first item is the review discussion of a proposal received from Eaton to provide services required for the testing and certification of the high-voltage electrical switching gear at the water treatment plant. We have Ed Williams, the Public Works Director.
Good evening. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Alderman, what this matter is a matter of getting the electrical gear certified and tested for use. As you know, we have redundant systems at the water treatment plant, and what's come to light with a series of incidents that have occurred there over the past couple of years is that over the course of time, perhaps the best practices for maintenance were not always followed, and this is one of those. So we have two transformers at the plant. Both transformers actually were required to be fully functional in order for the water plant to be fully powered, when in fact the electrical systems are set up such that it only takes one transformer to fully power the plant, provided this device, which is called a tiebreaker, is functioning. But because it's high voltage, 4160 volts, It requires very specific manufacturer's maintenance. It's not something that you can go to the hardware store and buy parts for. It's gear that was specifically made for its application, and we're very fortunate in that Abbott Labs, Abbott personnel actually helped design part of this switchgear. And Mr. Gus Vlahos at Abbott, who still is at Abbott, has been very resourceful and willing to help us get this right. So one of the things that we're looking to do with everything at the plant is to get the maintenance on a planned maintenance schedule. This switchgear would be one item that would ultimately get on a maintenance schedule. Right now, we need to have it serviced, operational, and functional because ComEd needs to take one of our primary feeds out of service. And so that switch actually has to work in order to fully power the plant the way it's supposed to. And so Eaton is actually the manufacturer of the components within the cabinets that make this electrical circuit happen.
Are there any questions?
Nope, get it done.
No.
Thank you.
Okay, at this time, I would like to close the Public Works Committee meeting.
So move.
Second?
Moved by Alderman Allen, second by Alderman Mayfield. Roll call?
Alderman Fisher. Alderman Mayfield.
Aye.
Alderman Evans.
Aye.
Alderman Allen.
Aye.
Alderman Markham.
Aye.
Alderman Runnels.
Aye.
Alderman January.
Meeting adjourned.
Okay, the Finance
Yeah,
Committee.
Mr. Mayor, Council, the items on the Finance Committee will be canceled tonight. We'd like to take this up on the next meeting.
With that, I'd like to open up the Committee of the Whole. Could I have a roll call?
Alderman Fisher. Alderman Mayfield.
Present.
Alderman Evans.
Here.
Alderman Allen.
Here.
Alderman Markham.
Present.
Alderman Runnels.
Here.
Alderman January.
We have just one item, and that's actually an appointment for the Library Board. I have Ms. Jeanette E. Allen here today that has applied for the position or the appointment for the Library Board. I think you all have it in your packet. If there is anything that you have would you like to ask of her, you can do it at this time. I know I had an opportunity to sit down and speak with Ms. Allen. I think she would be a good recommendation and a good appointment for the library position. So, didn't know if you had any questions or would you like to say anything?
I'd just like to thank you for the opportunity to be here and look forward to your recommendation.
Okay. All right.
Ms. Allen, I look forward to working with you and you joining my committee when you come aboard. Okay? Thank you.
All right, real good. Well, thank you very much. You are up for a vote tonight with the consent with the city council, so. With that, entertain a motion to adjourn.
So move.
Second?
It's been moved by Alderman Reynolds, second by Alderman Mayfield, that the committee of the whole stand adjourned. Any questions? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried.